I make good money, but I still feel broke. I don't understand where it all goes. It feels like as soon as I receive it, poof, it's gone. Does this sound familiar? I work with so many mompreneurs who make good money, six figures, and yet they have no idea where it went. Why? Because they're not tracking their finances. They're not paying attention to it. They're not giving every dollar a job before it even comes in. All businesses need two things, a business plan and a financial plan. If you're not sure where your money is going, then I'm inviting you to join my school community, The Smell of Money, where we dive into exactly where your money is going and we start to look at how you think and react to the money that you're receiving and paying out so that money flows in all ways, always. Join today. The link is in the comments. Generational cash flow, confidence, wealth. Welcome to I Date Money. If you're making money but still wondering where it all went, if you're ready to organize your cash flow, build confidence with money, and create lasting wealth, you're in the right place. I'm Lisa Drennan, wealth activator, creator of the Money Multiplier System, and founder of the Smell of Money community. If you're a multi-passionate female entrepreneur who's making money but not building wealth, this podcast is for you. Each week, you'll discover practical strategies to organize your cash flow, keep more of what you earn, eliminate debt, and build lasting wealth with confidence. So grab your favorite essential oil, take a deep breath, and let's sniff our way to cash flow, confidence, and wealth. Curses. I know some people are offended by that word, but I don't care. When we think about what we've carried on from generation to generation, it impacts us, whether we are conscious of it or not. And the decisions that we make every single day, especially with money, this comes to play. Something that your great grandmother taught your mom's mom, think of all the generations, is still with you today. And what you believe is probably true, but why do you believe it? Have you ever asked yourself that? Today, we are hanging out with Sarah Lauren, who helps parents heal generational conditioning so they can feel more present, joyful, and alive and model the freedom they want their children to inherit. Through trauma-informed embodiment, nervous system support, and bliss rituals, and conscious community, Sarah's work supports parents in moving out of inherited survival patterns into greater emotional safety, connection, and embodied freedom. Thank you so much for being here, Sarah. I am so excited to have this conversation with you. I love calling it the generational curses, and every time I say that, people are like, I don't like that. It's just beliefs that we carried on from our ancestors. Yeah. However we refer to it. So tell us about your journey, like what got you started on this path and what are some of the survival patterns that you recognize that you kind of shifted, that you did shift that brought you to where you are today?
Yeah. Well, becoming a mother, I think definitely set me on the path because I don't really have a choice. Like, I don't know, my whole reason for healing and integrating and doing all the things is so that my children can have freedom. In my story, I think everybody has the great trauma that happened in your life. And when I went through my great trauma, I saw that I was enslaved in a very kind of dramatic way. And it helped me see humanity as enslaved, like the greater picture. Like in so many ways, humanity is enslaved. And I'm like, why is that? What is that? So I was just curious and learning a lot of things along the way. I would say I got pretty deep with questioning these things in 2020. And then shortly after started training so that I could hold space for people, like doing a deep training on trauma integration from a somatic perspective mostly. And I saw that, oh, okay, so I see that these patterns, these conditionings, they're based on our environment and also our DNA. And an environment can shape our DNA, how it's expressed through epigenetics and things like that. So I got a really experiential look at how this works just by how I was able to shift some of my beliefs and see some of my beliefs and see, well, that's not actually mine. I just took it on so that I could fit in and feel like I would get the love and the meaning that I needed to survive from the people around me. which I think is what everybody does. And so everybody can really benefit from generational conditioning, healing, and integration and things like that. Because there's patterns that we all carry that we're not aware of that live in our subconscious. And when we make them conscious, then we can have greater and greater agency and authority of our choices in our life.
I love that. That parallels so well with what I do with my clients in the Wealth Accelerator using aromatherapy. Regulating that nervous system and identifying the patterns, especially when it comes to money, is so important so we can change the habits that we have with our money. And this falls into the relationships because I know so many people, especially divorced mompreneurs, relationships fail and break. And everyone says, well, the reason is because of money. But in actuality, it's a lot of this systems regulation that we're ignoring because we don't identify the patterns. So when we have these trauma related events, and I know a lot of our listeners think, oh, trauma, you have to go through something really dramatic. But anything that your body experiences can be trauma that's not normal. And, I've been in and out of therapy for years since I was 18 years old. And one of the counselors that I'm currently working with was telling me that we identify something not trauma related when we're so inundated with it because we've been conditioned that we think life is normal and this is how it's supposed to be. And then we get into that point where we're so afraid to look back and uncover it because we don't want it. We think we're going to relive it again. So in your experience and the systems that you have learned, especially with these bliss rituals and that conscious, when you identify the root cause, the deep subconscious, how does one work through it so that they're not actually reliving it?
Yeah. So I think healing isn't linear, but I've noticed a few different layers and we can cycle through these layers in different areas too. Like I feel like I was working on self-love for a lot of my healing journey. That's been my focus, and self-worth. That's just been the main focus. And then like my money story, which I know we're going to get to later, that's kind of like the last thing to come around. Like I'm going through these 3 different layers with that particular thing, but everything connects on a certain level as well. So I've noticed that the first layer kind of happens when people start to see their true self. They see, I adopted this belief when I was 5 or 8 or 12 or whatever it was. That's actually not me. That was an adaptation that I just naturally created to protect me because I felt like my true self wouldn't be accepted. So we create these false selves. So that this first layer of integrating these generational patterns, I would say, is remembering your true self. And then once you see that, oh, those are patterns, they're not me, and I can change them, I can change my story, then you start to go through this phase of embodying worthiness, because on the light bulb moments happen, but your nervous system is still kind of stuck in the old story. So you got to update it, which is some of what you do with aromatherapy in your program, which is really cool. That's the embodying worthiness stage. I had the light bulb moment and now I'm just retraining my nervous system. And this comes through a lot of consistent repeating the patterns that you do want. And I take people through their desire, like finding out what their desire is and moving towards it, because that is so much more powerful than trying to push something away that you don't want. But if you move towards something you do want and then just integrate the blocked energy on your way there, then transformation happens a lot faster. And then the third layer is kind of practicing being the creator of your reality. I call it the manifest magic stage. This is where you learn, like, okay, where I focus my attention, maybe I set an intention at the beginning of the week, I kind of surrender and let go and then watch it come together, because I know that my energy is powerful. And when I have that, I call my power back to myself, my energy, then I can move it towards the things that I want, and then they manifest in my reality. So those are kind of the 3 different layers that I've seen over and over again people go through to integrate those generational patterns.
And it's very powerful. I mean, our thoughts are very powerful. And when we can redirect them and think about what we're thinking about, one of the tools that we use in the Wealth Accelerator is the brain dump, or the Dear Money or the Dear Debt letter. And writing is so powerful. I mean, it just really helps process some of those things that are stuck in our head that we don't even realize. So when you first started this journey, what made you want to go down this path? Like, what were you experiencing specifically that you finally said, you know what, I'm done. I need to change this.
Yeah, I would say just becoming a mother, I really did not want to pass down anything to my children that wouldn't be good for them. And it was very obvious in my situation that that would be a really bad thing. I was adopted for a reason, and there was just a lot to integrate. And I would say I got really, really serious about figuring out what I needed to do to heal when I was pregnant with my second child, my son. And he's 6 now. So that was 6 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I noticed something like, our body speaks louder than words. And when we can
Mhm.
feel that in our body, it's something to pay attention to. And I always say, if you have chronic pain, migraines, hip pain, jaw aches, it could very well be something that's trauma based, something that you're living with that you've been ignoring, and just processing it and like getting in touch with your feelings and exposing those emotions and allowing them to be felt, to be seen and heard. And that's the power of a lot of these different therapies that we use. And, people don't think, well, everyone knows we buy from emotion, but people don't realize that their money story is all based on the emotions that they've experienced. And we're always looking for something. So a lot of our listeners have these emotional spending patterns where subconsciously they just go out and rack up all of these things, hide the purchases from their partners, and just justify it and maybe get their backup. And it's almost like an addiction, like, oh, I can do this and I won't get caught. And when we think about these patterns, what kind of patterns have shown up for you in your life with your money?
I had a pretty interesting pendulum swing from one extreme to the other. My money story is connected to this inherent feeling of unworthiness. That's why I put such an emphasis on embodying worthiness, because I really believed for most of my life that I was bad. Like, I'm evil, I'm full of sin, I don't deserve it, I'm not worthy. And I think specifically with money, the first interaction I remember having with it that kind of first formed my belief around money was when I was probably 9 years old. I really wanted Pokemon cards. It was the thing to do. I was living in England, and at lunchtime, that's what we did. We had these big binders full of Pokemon cards, and we traded them. And that's like the only thing I care about. I just want a bunch of Pokemon cards so I can trade and, like hang out with people. But I didn't have the money. We never had money as a family. It's like, oh, it's too expensive. Like, no. It just seemed like money was like a horrible thing that we don't talk about. We didn't have it. So I'm like, well, that's okay. I'll just make it, right? I'll just go out and make some money. So I was talking to my neighbor down the street, one of my friends, and I'm like, I want to get Pokemon cards. I need to make some money. And she's like, well, let's just start a dog walking business. And I'm like, okay, that sounds good. So we did. But we just went door to door and started offering our services to walk people's dogs and did really well. I was making good money. Like the first try ever, I was like, this is awesome. Like, I can buy all the Pokemon cards I want. And then like a month into this or whatever it was, one of the clients called my house to reschedule the dog walking, and my dad answered. And oh boy, that was the end of that. I mean, it was like, how dare you? Like, why would you even want to make money? The fact that you even want to make money is like evil. Like, you're selfish. This is horrible. You should be a child. You should focus on your childhood and not the evils of, the greed of wanting to make money. Like, why are you so greedy? So without knowing it, I created this belief that if I was going to earn money, it meant I was bad. Like, I had to be bad to get money. And then still, when I was younger, like, I felt like I just had to be bad to make money. And I actually, because I believed I was bad, I made actually really good money when I was younger. I was like, I'm bad and I make money. It's perfect. And then the pendulum swang the other way when I became a mother, especially when I was pregnant with my second child. I decided, like, okay, I'm going to do things the right way. And that's when I really started the healing journey. And at this point, I grew up in big cities all over the world, but at this point, I'm living in a one-horse town in South Georgia, like in the swamplands. This is one of the most impoverished areas of the country. Not at all what I was used to. And so I'm like, I'm going to do things the right way. And I go from making like six figures to making about, I don't know, 30,000 a year, struggling, working harder than I've ever worked in my life, doing things the right way. And over the last 6 years, I've been, pretty not nearly making as much as I was when I was younger, but also working on my relationship with money and my stories around it. I've managed to become 100% debt free. I don't have any debt at all. And I used to have quite a bit, and I'm a lot more resourceful. So now I'm kind of in the embodying worthiness stage of my money story and looking at that. And I feel really good about it because I think when we transform our story with money, it can change really, really quickly, like how it shows up in our lives. So that's kind of where I'm.
So do you still believe? Well, thank you for sharing that powerful story.
Uh-huh.
That's amazing that you'd experienced something like that as far as your dad not supporting you and thinking because you were a kid, money was making evil. Like my thought was, wow, you're so resourceful. Like that's fantastic. Like you're a little entrepreneur. This is what you're meant to do. Let me teach you how to manage that money and how to save it and invest it and help it grow and then get the Pokemon cards that you want. Cause I heard you say that all the money went for Pokemon cards. And, spending everything that we earn is not a great way to manage our money. But, our parents, a lot of times they have their own beliefs that they, as we talked about earlier, to pass on to the next generation and having this belief of not being worthy, and that money is bad. I mean, money is just energy, and we know that, everybody needs money to live on, but I know a lot of people feel that, money is the root of evil. No, it's not. The love of it is, what you do with money, money in the hands of a good person does amazing things. And when we're just constantly working to buy something, to get something, that's exhausting, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so for you to identify that and be able to work through it and change that and be debt free, that's awesome. Congratulations. You're one of the I think there's like a small percentage of people in the United States is like 2% of people are debt free. And when you think about that greed, how is that affecting your business now? So you're an entrepreneur, you're starting up this business. I know you've been in real estate before. How does it affect your profit margin goal?
Well, I'm just getting started. So I looked at I'm a clean slate right now. I have all the potential to manifest money. And I try to look at it from a neutral standpoint, like looking at the principles of the universe, how it works. And in manifestation, the laws come into play a lot, cause and effect, and the transmutation of energy. And I know that I'm putting a lot of energy and focus into what I'm creating, how I serve people in the world. And I'm really just kind of building. I'm in that stage of giving it life. It's like it's in the womb. And then it's going to be birthed and come out. And I just trust that it's going to happen when it's supposed to.
Mm-hmm. But how are you working through that money story of I only earn good money because I'm bad?
Mm-hmm. I look at it more now as an expression of love. I see money as an expression of love, and it's not bad. I don't feel that way about money anymore. I don't feel like I have to be bad to earn money, or, if I'm good, then I'm going to be living in poverty. So much of religious conditioning comes up. I think it's probably pretty common for religious conditioning to come up in your story about money. So what do? I just continue doing somatic practices around it. Take your courses. I know I want to dive into that aromatherapy course. I've got Kate Northrup's book, Money Love Story. So yeah, I just continue to let it transform.
Yeah. And learning as much as you can. And step one is always identifying like, okay, I need help. Something's not right. I remember when I was, developing my emotional story, because, I've been in finances and insurance since 1987. And when I was going through my emotional spending issue where I racked up $100,000 worth of debt, I knew I needed help, but I knew it wasn't a math problem. And I remember, working with my coach in 2020. And she's like, well, I want you to start with the money module. And when I started watching it, she's like, it's all about mindset. I'm like, mindset? What does mindset have to do with money? Money's math. There's no manifestation or mindset with money. It's all math. But it opened my eyes to the psychology of money. And when we identify those emotional patterns, we can recognize and understand it's not about math. It's about that relationship. And, 99% of us buy things because we have a tie to it for some reason. Like, I want, some people buy 100 pairs of shoes. Why do you have 100 pairs of shoes? Well, if you listen to their story, they wore the same pair of shoes every single day until they had holes in them, or their foot got so big they outgrew them, they couldn't stuff their foot into it anymore, and never were they going to do that again. And if you think about what you own a lot of, you can probably go back to your younger self and identify those patterns. So I love that you're doing this work, that you're bringing this to the table and helping women see this. It's so important to identify this, especially, the younger you are, the better. I always say the day to start is yesterday, but regardless of how old you are, it needs to be processed, because we get to the point where it's just, I can't take it anymore. Something needs to change and I need help identifying it. So tell us who you work with, how you help them, and what's the best way for them to connect with you.
I work with parents on helping them integrate their generational patterns so that they don't pass them on to their children. And so they can go through the steps of remembering their true selves, embodying worthiness, and manifesting magic. Because when they hold that in their energy field, they transmit it to their children, they model it to their children, and their children inherit that freedom. And I have a community where we hang out, where I host bliss rituals that parents can practice daily. I've got 53 right now and not even close to being done. We're in the embodying worthiness stage inside the community right now. So the bliss rituals are typically 15-minute somatic practices that help you move through these layers so that you can return to your natural state of bliss. But bliss is one of the translations for Eden, and ritual, the Sanskrit root, rita, is in the word ritual, and it means cosmic order. So a bliss ritual is just returning to your natural state in alignment with cosmic order. It's just getting rid of the things that don't belong to you, shedding those layers. And yeah, the community that I have is free, and it's just an opportunity to connect with other parents going through similar things in the same season of life.
Beautiful. I love that. It reminds me of being in the present of now, just in the moment of now, and knowing who you are and staying true to your own identity and not letting outside influences determine that for you. Everyone talks about wearing the mask. This allows you to take that mask off. So thank you so much. What's the name of your community and how do they enroll?
Oh yeah, it's on the school platform and it's called Freedom Lovers Only. You'll find it.
Perfect. All right, and we'll grab that link from you and put that in the show notes. So for those of you listening, if you're at the point where you're like, where am I? Who am I? What am I doing? And you're kind of frazzled thinking, I don't want my kids to learn this, then you need to join Sarah's community and start doing the bliss rituals. Think about 15 minutes a day to calm your nervous system, to rethink how you're thinking so that you are setting the beautiful example, teaching your children how they can be them true selves just by you becoming who you are meant to be. So thank you again, Sarah, for being here. And, when you think about going on this journey, this healing journey, there are so many layers to it. And we can't just it's not a one and done thing. And we have so many stories that we tell ourselves, from relationships to our health, and yes, to our money. So as you're hustling and you're thinking, oh, I need to make more money, to stop and think, how can I take care of myself so that I can take care of me, so I can feel safe and have that financial freedom that I desire? This is exactly what we talk about in the Smell of Money. So you can join the community. The link is in the show notes. And remember, it doesn't matter how much money you have. It's what you do with it. If today's episode helped you, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with another entrepreneur who's ready to build wealth with confidence. And if you're ready to go deeper, come join us inside The Smell of Money, where we turn these conversations into action. Before you go, grab your favorite essential oil, take one deep breath in, and slowly exhale. Breathe in cash flow, exhale overwhelm. Breathe in confidence, exhale doubt. Breathe in wealth and trust the woman you're becoming. Until next time, cash flow, confidence, wealth. This is Lisa Drennan, and you've been listening to I Date Money. Keep trusting yourself one money move at a time.